Chronic pain and nutrition is a very important subject, and the reason why is because by altering how we consume our foods can have a dramatic effect on the hormones in our body that play a role in chronic pain. Now, chronic pain is very complicated. There's so many factors involved in chronic pain, but for this video in particular, I'm just going to focus on the nutritional components, because you have to piecemeal your problem so that you can figure out what works the best for you. There may be emotional problems, there may be some physical problems, there may be other things going on in your life that are beyond the scope of this particular video. But if you get the nutritional component down and it improves dramatically, then you know that that's a component. If there's another component, such as an emotional component, then you have to focus on that as well. But here's what I want you to consider, that we live in our own bodies in such a way that there's unfortunately a chronic inflammatory process going on inside our blood vessels, inside the tissues of our body, inside our brain. And it's largely induced from the chemicals that we ingest, that we breathe in, that are in our environment. And so if you're able to alter those chemicals, then you can influence chronic pain. The easiest thing to control is the diet, because what's in our air, we don't really have a lot of control over. We have some control over certain chemicals in our house. If there's certain things that are unavoidable, you can't control, but there are certain things, if you have plants or mold or mildew, you can clean that up. But as far as cleaning up our diet, chronic pain is unfortunately a major problem that is a result of this chronic inflammation. So by controlling inflammation, you essentially control chronic pain. So here's how I want you to think about eating. First of all, in very simple terms, you can affect your entire body. 90% of diet can be changed by getting rid of processed foods. So when you go into a supermarket, if you're buying things that are man-made, if you're buying things that are processed, they're in boxes, this type of thing, you just eliminate those and you've got 90% of the diet down correct. Now let's talk about the other 10%. When you eat foods, there are essentially three basic components of food that all food is essentially made of: proteins, carbohydrate, and fat. Now you may have heard on the internet that there are no essential carbohydrates. This is kind of a weird myth that seems to be circulating around the internet. And what they actually mean is there are no essential carbohydrates, and what they mean by carbohydrates is cookies, donuts, cakes, pasta, that type of thing. But if you look at, for example, any vegetable, there are a little bit of oils, a little bit of carbohydrate, and a little bit of protein. If you look at an egg, it's mainly protein, fat. You look at butter, it's mainly fat. So there are certain foods that have a primary component of carbohydrate or protein or fat. But to vilify just one macronutrient is kind of silly. But here's what I want you to consider, is that if you were to eat foods that were kind of in their natural state, as close to it as possible, you're going to affect your inflammatory markers. Now, let's get more detailed. If you were to eat foods that had good amounts of protein, good amounts of fat, and the right fats, and good amounts of carbohydrate all in one sitting, you're not going to spike your insulin levels. you're not going to have a strong insulin response. In fact, your body is going to be very much well balanced. So when it comes to the protein sources, the best protein sources are chicken, turkey, meats, pork, eggs, and that's it. Pretty simple. The best carbohydrate sources are vegetables, all the colors of the rainbow, and fruit. The best sources of fat would be avocado, olive oil, things like that. Now there is some role for saturated fats. You just don't want to be overeating saturated fats. But likewise, you wouldn't want to be overeating protein. You don't want to overeat carbohydrate. And you don't even want to overeat monounsaturated fats. You just want enough for the energy that you need throughout the day. There are certain supplements that do help with chronic pain. And anytime you can take a supplement that affects your sleep, and that's a big one, if you can improve your sleep, you can drastically improve your chronic pain, because sleep is where our body recovers quickly and efficiently. Now, my favorite supplement for helping sleep, and you may find something different, is some type of magnesium supplement. Now, there are many different types of magnesium supplements on there. This one's my favorite. It's from Bioptimizers, called Magnesium Breakthrough. The great thing is about this is, number one, it has a 365-day money-back guarantee. So if you want to get some, there's a link down below. You can try it out, see if it affects you. Buy at least a couple months worth and give it a fair try. The second thing is, there are different types of magnesium. There's quite a bit, actually. And Magnesium Breakthrough has 7 different types of magnesium in it, which is fantastic. Because whereas some magnesium helps the heart a little more, some magnesium helps your digestive system a little more, some types of magnesium will affect your blood pressure a little more, some affect sleep, some are more absorbable. But if you combine all of it together, it works synergistically to even give better results than just taking one in isolation. That's very important. So that's why I find that patients that have chronic pain, one of the first things you want to do is reduce inflammation and get them better sleep. Almost invariably, people feel tons better. Now, you have to take all this with a grain of salt, and that's a joke. But you have to take this with a grain of salt, because I've been in practice for 29 years. I've helped tremendous amount of people. I'm still in practice. I'm not just telling you this on YouTube, and I'm not a YouTube personality. I'm just telling you what I find that works well with patients, real patients, not people that I'm just spouting off stuff off the internet. And where the rubber hits the road is when it works on a real person. And there are some extreme diets that do work for people. There's just eating meat, there's just eating vegetables, there's fruitarians, there's all these extreme diets, and some people find benefit from them. But in the real world, it's very difficult to get someone to follow an extreme diet. So what I find is that a more well-balanced diet that has less processed foods can help the majority of people. And then when it comes to supplements, you could take ungodly amounts of supplements. There are so many supplements that should be taken, but we just can't take them all. So very often I try to find the one supplement that will help the person the most. And when it comes to chronic pain, getting someone better sleep is numero uno. And that's why I think a magnesium supplement is the most beneficial for chronic pain patients, because it calms down the nervous system, it gets them to sleep. If they get deeper REM sleep, they feel more rested the next day. That calms down the nervous system's ability to control pain, and essentially everyone's happy.